So we're going to be using our perfect squares. Hopefully you kept your perfect square note card like I told you to. But if not, I have mine. So to simplify a radical expression, because it's a square root, you are going to use your perfect squares.
Oh! Is this a review?
I like how you paused, realized it was Marshall, and then got offended because it was Marshall. You are a ridiculous human being. Alright, so that's what we're going to be able to do. Now remember, it's a square root if it does not have a number in the mullet. Remember, to simplify, you find the biggest perfect square that goes into it and then find the other counting number. Does everybody understand?
Yes.
What is the biggest perfect square that goes into 80?
10.
That's not a perfect square. That's not, for the love of all things good and holy, look at the orange card, orange numbers. Those are perfect squares. And 64 does not go into 80.
4.
Like on a different level of tired. Y'all just don't even know. For the love of all.
Yeah, 3. 4. 16. 94.
I'm so tired of me.
5.
Orange numbers. Orange. Y'all, take your calculator. Do 80 divided by 16 and tell me what you get.
I can't find my card.
80 divided by 16 is 5.
Oh my gosh.
I said 16 like 13 times. 16 times.
Baby, you were yelling all kinds of
I
stuff.
said 16.
And then you
16 a couple times. She said it on 16.
I quit ignoring her like the first time she yelled 8 or something. Alright, so then all you do is you take the square root of 16. What's the square root of 16?
4.
So then it's 4. 5 stays under the radical. Root 5. Do you guys remember doing this? I know. You just have to divide. Yeah, that's the radicand. 5 is the radicand. Now, the reason we take the square root of 16 is because A, it's a perfect square, and we need 2 of the same number that multiply together to give us 16. That's 4. The 4s are the people that want to go outside and play. 5 is by himself. He wants to read Harry Potter. I'm sorry that you don't like to read. How was it? Not everything is about you. We got to get Micah too. That's our next goal. Alright, so the next thing, B, for 180. What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 180?
36.
Okay, 36 times what?
5.
Okay. People are walking by looking in here like, why is she getting so upset about numbers? So what's this? 6 goes on the outside. And what stays inside to read Harry Potter? Boom, that's our answer. Now, does anybody have any questions before we go any further to the next step? I'm sorry? Can you see my sheet?
When you're done.
My notes?
What you're writing on.
At the end of the lesson, yes.
Okay.
Or you can look at the person right next to you.
Okay. Which one do you have to do?
Look at the person right next to you. Okay. So then the next thing we do for C is we multiply 2 times 14.
28.
I'm going to wait until Kalia finishes looking at her paper. Let's just all pause. If you can go ahead and multiply 2 and 14 together, go ahead and do it and write the square root of 28. And then chill for a moment. Unless you can figure out the biggest perfect square that goes into 28 without saying it out loud.
If you show me your note card. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm so ready for the end of May. You multiply 2 times 14 and you get 28. And then you find the biggest perfect square that goes into 28. Anybody? Anybody?
4.
4. 4 and 7. So that's 2 root 7. That's how you say the answer. 2 root 7. How do you say the answer?
2 root 7.
Woo! Ta-da! That's it. Do you guys want me to pass out your homework sheet so you can practice these as we go? Okay, I can do that. I'm sorry? The sections as we go.
Oh, yeah.
Like right now on this sheet, you should be able to do 1 through 7.
Oh,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, I'm about to lose my mind.
You can have a bigger number on the outside than what it is on the inside.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Number 7, you see how they're both 5? So anytime you multiply two radicals together that have the same radicand, it just becomes that number. So the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. So then it's 3 times 5, which is 15. So if I have the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, that's just 2. If I have the square root of 5 times the square root of 5, that's just 5. If I have the square root of 7 times the square root of 7, that's just 7. And if I have the square root of 124 times the square root of 124, that's just 124. If I have the square root of a potato times the square root of a potato, that's just a potato.
If you have a square root of, no, if you have, I'm trying to use my terms, but I forgot the other name for it. But anyways, on the outside you have 4 square root of,
Are you talking about number 8?
I'm talking about, like, it's an example of number 3 kind of.
Number 3?
No, 7, I'm sorry.
I just did that one?
Yeah, but like how the 3 is on the outside.
Yeah. I multiplied 3 times 5 and got 15.
Oh.
You multiply. So now on number 8, since 4 is on the outside, you cannot multiply 4 times 6 or 4 times 24.
So it'll be 6 times 24.
It would be 6 times 24 with the 4 on the outside. And 6 times 24 is 144? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So then what's the square root of 144?
12.
So then you do 4 times 12 and you get 48.
Oh.
On number 9, you would do 2 times 3 since they're on the outside, and that would give you 6. You would do 3 times 15, and that would give you 45. And then what's the biggest perfect square that goes into 45? Perfect square. 9. Thank you. So that's 9 times 5. The square root of 9 is? So then you do 3 times 6, and that gives you 18 root 5. Did anybody work ahead and get that one right? Okay, well that's okay. No judgment. All God's children. Do y'all see how he got it?
Yeah.
The 18 came from the square root of 9, which is 3 times 6. Does anybody have any other questions on that before we go back to our notes? Yeah, that's why I wanted us to work out our homework as we go, so we can make sure. And if we need more, I have another sheet I can give you. No big deal.
Do you have like, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have like 2 letters, like 2 different parts in like one like that?
What do you
Say
mean?
you have like number 3, you have one on the outside, but then again, times multiplying that by a square root that has variables in it. Can you do that?
Yes. I think I understand what you're saying, but I don't really understand. What are you talking about? Say it to me again.
Like,
Point it out to me, Sassy.
that's where you mind like Shadow's gonna be on the video.
No, come on, baby. Shadow's not going to be on the
So
video.
if you have like one like this, on the outside.
Yeah.
Can that be like on the outside?
Of those, yes, it can be.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we're about to talk about next. Good question. All right, so part 2 has to do with variables. Does everybody understand? Now, the first thing you do with the variables is you break down the 90. And remember, we have done this before. We spent like 3 days on this. We have done this.
We had a checkpoint.
Yes, we had the checkpoint. We had like several nights of homework. We were alive for this. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to break down 90. What is the biggest perfect square that goes into 90?
It's 9.
9. So 9 and what?
10.
Perfect. And the way you can tell if you got the biggest or not, see if there's a perfect square in the other number. There's not a perfect square that goes into 10. All right, what's the square root of 9?
3.
So you bring 3 to the outside. We're going to leave some space to write our variables. And 10 is reading Harry Potter.
And then it's x squared, and then the x inside is x just by itself. And then it's going to be
Wait.
y. So you subtract. No,
It's
x
not-
to 1.
Yes, because you take this 2, remember it's a 2 right here, and 2 goes into 3 how many times?
1.
Once, with how many left over?
1.
1.
Oh, wait.
Because it's the square root, so there's a 2 there.
Okay, I remember this.
It's an invisible 2. So then you do 2 into 4, which goes into how many times?
Twice.
Twice, with none left over. And then you do the z. 2 goes into 5 how many times?
Twice.
Twice, with how many left over? 1. And that's your answer.
Wow. Can you read out loud?
I can. Will you please read out loud? Not can you read out loud. I am capable.
Will you read it out loud, please?
3 times x, y squared, z squared, times the square root of 10xz. Yes.
Can you explain how you got the X, like, separated?
I can. Alright, so I have, and remember, it's the square root, right? So I have 3 x's, which means I need a set of 2. 3 x's and then a set of 2. So how many sets of 2 do I have? 1, with 1 left over. Then I look at my y's. I have, okay, I need just a new piece of paper because this is making me angry. Alright, how many y? I have 3 x's. 1, 2, 3. Because it's square root, you need sets of 2. So you have 1 set of 2 with 1 left over. Alright, I have 4 y's. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 2 sets of 2. So that's why it's y squared. And then with my z's, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 2 sets of 2 with 1 left over. So it's z squared z. Does that help?
Yes.
Are you sure? Are you lying? You need a minute to process?
And I saw that, like, you were on.
Thank you. Thank you for the translation. Can you guys try B without me?
Andrew, what's your favorite color?
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
Can I switch your card again?
Yellow.
Mine's blue.
Not like a garish yellow, but like a soft yellow. And a green, like a happy green. Green like a frog, because I love frogs.
I guess you love me too. I look straight line. That's how everybody used to call me. You heard my feelings cookie.
Alright, what's the biggest... Do I need to just leave this for a moment?
Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
on the numbers. Other than 1x, exactly.
It does. He stays in to read Harry Potter. In the house. To read Harry Potter.
Juliana got it.
I'm good.
She want to share her answer.
For B?
Yeah.
First, tell me what you broke 32 down into. Woo! So what did you put on the outside of the radical?
4,
And then what's in the house?
2.
Okay, now let's look at our letters. What'd you do?
I did R myself
Why?
because there's exactly 2, so they merge together to form one group.
C.
And then K to the second, and then T to the second, and one inside.
Why are there no K's inside the house?
Because there's 2 groups of exactly 2.
Yes. Fantastic. Did anybody else get that? Yay, go team. Are we ready for C or do I need to give you a moment? Okay, I'll give you a moment. Yes. And if y'all write down 7 or 8 as perfect squares that go into 56, I'm probably going to fail you. Christine, you better not have written that. Oh my gosh! Here.
Asbury, remember, remind me to show you something, okay?
I know you've been screaming that for 5 minutes.
Well, you need to.
Because I hear you. I didn't think I had to respond to you. You know everybody hears you.
Yeah, sometimes you did ignore me like that time with my dog, so yeah. No,
Who did I look at and ask what she said? Did I look at you or did I look
It
at...
was our table.
Yeah. I was like, what did she say?
y'all in that table.
Because when you sent it, it wasn't okay to give bread to your dog. I was like, I've given my dog bread ever since I've had him. I've had him for like 4 years. I'm pretty sure he's okay.
Don't ever.
It's 4.
Are we
I know
ready?
to break it down to Asbury. I'm ready.
All right, tell me what to break it down to, loudmouth. Jaslyn? 4 and 14? All right, so y'all got 2 on the outside. What stayed in the house to read Harry Potter?
14.
Okay. What about our letters? Does X come outside?
No.
No, because there's only 1. All right, what about our Y's? Y to the 5th power. And what about our Z? Excuse me. Z squared.
1 in the house.
And 1 in the house. Look at us go. Woo! I really want to run down to Miss Compton's room and see if how they're doing.
Please
You're
do
like,
it.
we did it.
I'm like, Miss Asbury just wanted me to ask you, how are y'all going? Because we got this.
Oh,
Erasers.
oh, thank you.
You're
We'll
welcome.
be good, I promise.
No.
But on this little phone, so.
All right, so can you guys work on some of your homework? Do y'all want to do that for a moment before we do part 4?
Yeah,
Part 3, rather?
Right. Can you put your card up? Can you come? I guess we're
Come over here. I'm not checking them for you. You know better than that.
Okay, when you break it down like that, do you break it down again or just leave
No,
it?
it's 4.
Okay, that's what
The
I thought.
square root of 16 is 4.
You put your card up there.
Oh my gosh. Take a picture and make your own card. Do you need a no card?
She's staring at me, scary. Bro, give her the I still don't look up there.
Don't you break one down and put it on the
Yeah.
outside?
No, the square root of 81 is 9. It's a perfect
So
square.
you just leave it.
It's 9.
Okay, Jacqueline, top 5 here over you.
What? Why are you up? So we should ask because really you're just walking up here to get attention and walk across the classroom. Come on. You got a pencil on your desk.
That's where it's supposed
It'll let him breathe it. Read the cap. Read the comments.
You showed her that SpongeBob picture?
Yeah.
Robin, you and Carly.
Did you use the correct your? Y-O-U apostrophe R-E?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it is.
Okay. Okay, can I move my card? Can we move on in this lesson? Now 10 and 11 have perfect squares under here, so take the square root of the perfect square. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 81 is 9.
So it would be 9A2 squared would be 4.
9AD squared. Because 2 goes into 2 how many times? Nothing! The thing will disappear!
I forgot about that.
Magic.
So if they're the same,
Does 4B squared?
This one? Yes, 4V squared. Look at you go, Maggie Joe.
what are you talking about?
Number 10.
There's my eraser.
Okay. Would 24 be no solution? Never mind. It's not. It's
Number 10. You wouldn't have anything under the radical because 16 is a perfect square, so you just take the square root of 16 and get 4. So it's 4 and then B squared. We just said that.
You just confused me. Right.
The square root of 16 is 4. It's a perfect square. So you take the square root of 16 and you get 4. And then 2 goes into 4 twice, so it's B squared. 4B squared. Ready? Alright, part 3. Here we go.
Okay, part 3. Wait, can I? Okay, never mind.
What question do you have? Okay. Now, part 3 is a new part. It's called rationalizing a denominator. Now, rationalizing means that you get the radical out of the denominator. That's what it means, because you cannot have a radical in the denominator. Now, we're going to do this 2 ways. This way, we're going to reduce our fraction first. This way, we're going to rationalize first. So we're going to write reduce. Where did you get 7/3 from?
Divided by 5.
So Kalia says that we divide the top and the bottom by 5. Do we agree or disagree?
Agree.
And you end up with the square root of 7 divided by 3. Then, that is the same thing as writing this. You have to break it apart. So that's the same thing as writing it as the square root of 7 divided by the square root of 3. Now, we cannot have a radical in the denominator. So what you have to do is you have to multiply the top and bottom of the fraction. And we're going to multiply it by the square root of 3. We're going to multiply it by this so that we can get rid of that. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3. Because we're trying to get rid of this, so you multiply it by the same thing. Every time you multiply it by itself. Every time. Because we're trying to get rid of it. Because what did we just say a minute ago? What happens when you multiply 2 radicals together that have the same radicand? It's the number. So what would the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 be? 3. So 3 is the denominator. Now what am I going to do with that 7 and 3? Multiply them. So it'll be the square root of 21. And boom, you're done.
Is 3 in the equation of the answer?
Right here.
Okay.
That's why I put a circle around it. Just wait. Just let me go over it again. The first thing we do is we reduce our fraction. That's why it says reduce right here first. So we divided both of them by 5, and I got 7/3. Then I broke apart my thingamabobs. I broke apart my radicals, and I got the square root of 7 divided by the square root of 3. We cannot have a radical in the denominator, so I rationalize, which means I multiply the top and the bottom by the denominator. so that I can get rid of it. So I multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 becomes 3. Then I multiply the 7 and 3 together, and I got the square root of 21. Does everybody understand? Please do not do B yet,
I already did.
because we're doing B a different way. I said it 5 times. I'm sorry? Now, for B, we're going to rationalize. Now, rationalize means what we did here. We're going to multiply, because it's already separated, we're going to multiply it by the denominator first. Now, sometimes you can go ahead and reduce. We could go ahead and reduce these, but I want to rationalize it and see if that's easier. Are you guys ready? So, how would I rationalize it? What would I multiply the top and bottom by?
12. 2. 6. 12. Why?
The square root of 12.
Oh.
That is not the same thing as 12. I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 12. You always multiply it by the denominator. 12 and the square root of 12 are not the same thing. Now, what happens to the denominator? It becomes 12. And what does the top become?
Why? 72.
72. Why?
Because the 12 times 6.
Yes, but I meant why, like the variable.
Yeah.
But thank you for explaining it to me. That's why I keep you around. Now, we have to break apart 72. We have to get in simplest radical form. So, using your either picture, note card, something, so that I don't have to keep putting this up here because I got it right. What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 72? 36. Okay. What's 72 divided by 36? 2. And what's the square root of 36? So 6 comes on the outside. 2y stays inside to read Harry Potter, divided by 12. Now, can 6/12 be reduced?
Yes.
To what?
To 1/2. 1/6. 1 square root. 1. Never mind. 1. Miss Ezra. I got there. I said.
There's more than one way to do it. You should have, because I wanted to show you this way. There is a reason we do the things we do. Now, is it easier to reduce first or rationalize first? Reduce. So on C, what would we do? All right, what would we divide both of those by?
5.
And what would that reduce to?
9/2.
9 halves, not 9/2. We're in pre-EP. I can't make that face that SpongeBob made. All right, now, what should we do next?
Put them in square root.
Break them apart, put them in square root. So the square root of 9 divided by the square root of 2. What am I going to multiply the top and bottom by?
2.
By the square root of 2. Now, wait. Do we know what the square root of 9 is? 3. So can I write my answer as 3 root 2 divided by 2? I can. Because you take the square root of this, it becomes 3. You multiply 3 times root 2, that gives you root 2. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2, and boom, Bob's your uncle, you're done.
Bob's your uncle.
I actually have an Uncle Bob.
Do we have to write it like that, or can we write it?
Yes, you have to write it like this. Because it's 3 times the radical, the square root of 2, all divided by 2. Not just part of it. So let's look at our homework. Is everybody ready?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
You should be able to do through 20 now. So I want you to make sure that you have at least some part of each section done. And if you have any questions, ask me. Does everybody understand?
Yes.
Okay? For right now. And then the rest is homework. Miss Compton said her 4th period understood.
Oh, dang.
But not her 3rd period.
Did your third period understand?
Yeah, they did very well.
Better than us?
Yes.
Oh.
And they had less time with me because I was in a meeting.
No, I'll get together. I'm disabled right now, so I can't contribute.
Tomorrow we'll talk about conjugates.
Marshall, I am disabled. I'm almost legally blind. Joe? Some water, no.
Hurry. Are there any that you want to go over before we leave each other?
Maybe the one with
16.
12. Number 17, yeah.
16, you would multiply them together.
And then read letters.
17, you would just break them apart.
Okay.
So 17, I would break it apart into the square root of q divided by the square root of 12, and then multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 12, and get the square root of 12q divided by 12. I know. Radicals are so much fun.
You can speak, so don't have to play with me. That's what you said.
On some of them, I would watch and make sure you can or cannot take the square root of it before you do the rationalizing. Like on 19, you may be able to take the square root of the denominator, and that gets rid of it. Same thing on 20. So you may not have to rationalize.